Many people's reaction to Tailwind CSS on first glance, including mine, is that it's just inline styling with extra steps. But after looking into it more and more, I can now say that I think it's superior to normal CSS. So let's take a look. So let's start off simple right here. We've got two boxes, the outer one being everything you can do with CSS and the inner one being everything you can do with proper Tailwind in the recommended way. So no angle brackets or whatever, just normal Tailwind. And you can see Tailwind actually has less functionality than CSS when it comes to the variety of statements you can execute. And that's because Tailwind is not just a one-to-one replacement for CSS, where you basically just have shorthands for your statements. It's actually a design library. And that means that you can only do certain statements with Tailwind in the recommended way, and you're basically forced to use their design system. And because the design system is very well optimized, I'd say that it can actually be quite superior to CSS if you want to use the design system, which I'd surely recommend. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so let's start off with the most simple, but in my opinion, also quite cool part of the library, which is the design system for colors. So as you can see, we've got quite a few palettes right here: slate, gray, zinc, all of these, red, orange, all these cool palettes right here that are well optimized to work with each other and also to have a good gradient, as you can see. So these colors are not just randomly chosen or computer generated, they are specifically chosen to be adjusted to the human eye and to be well working with each other. So basically, when you pick colors from these palettes, you can be quite sure that they will work really well together on your site, which I really like. And you can even manipulate them if you wanted to. But then again, this would basically destroy the whole concept of this being a design system, so I wouldn't recommend that. But if you had like some brand colors you wanted to integrate as well, then you could of course do that. And next up is the size system. So we can say something like, I want a width of 96. Or I want a width of 24. And as you can see, these widths scale really nicely. And they are predefined. So you can't just say, I want a width of 95 now, because that number isn't given to you. Sure, you can create it using angle brackets or whatever, but that's not recommended. The thing about this is, these numbers scale quite well. And they're designed so that your UI will look really nice when you use them together. So basically, these are steps that Tailwind recommends for you so that your app will look the nicest possible. And this also goes really well with the border radius, which is also predefined for you. So you don't say, I want a border radius of 4. You basically want to say, I want a border radius that is rounded, for example, small, which then means I want a border radius of 0.125 rem or 2 pixels. Again, these numbers are chosen to look well with the rest of the system. So if you use the rest of the design system, this will work really nicely with it. And yeah, it basically just allows you to round your objects in whatever way you want. And of course, you can also create circles, which is quite nice as well. And with something like Prettier, you can even order these class names because, as you might know, Tailwind uses classes to style your components. So you can imagine these classes can become quite long, especially if you also add hovers like this right here to your Tailwind logic. So it might be helpful to order them so that you can better maintain when something changes and that you can easier find where something is. For example, as you can see, the color is right in front. So if you want to change the color, you don't need to look at the far end. You can just change it right in the beginning as soon as you get used to where everything is located with the Prettier plugin, which is quite nice. And because Tailwind is really well documented, you can also find all the equivalents for normal CSS you'd like to write right here in the documentation with some visuals like the one I showed you before, which I find really nice. So please give Tailwind a try. I was really doubtful in the beginning as well, but now I'm quite convinced that it really improves your development workflow because you can just work so fast and so efficiently while still creating an awesome looking site. And you might want to combine it with the content of this video, where I'll show you how to use React server components, which might work quite well with something like Tailwind.